Mahjong Kazoku is a big moment for me, because this is the last Mahjong game I am likely to play for a very long time. Or at least my plans through 2025 don't include any Mahjong games. I could be wrong, but I looked forward through all of the remaining Famicom Disk System games, and no Mahjong. My plans after that? No Mahjong on that radar. There's a little something I do for every Mahjong game, mostly because I anticipate that a lot of my audience isn't familiar with Mahjong, and I anticipate that a lot of people might just stumble across these videos while searching for some obscure game. So for one final time, Mahjong is a set-building game similar to Rummy, played with tiles instead of cards. The version of Mahjong commonly played in Japan is Riichi Mahjong, a variant that requires players build particular hands before they're allowed to go out. Mahjong Kazoku has one particularly notable thing about it. The title means Family Mahjong, and it was released 7 days before Namco released Family Mahjong. Namco's game was developed by Nichibutsu, who had already developed quite a reputation for Mahjong video games. Irem's game was developed by Irem. One of these two games was a major success, and it wasn't Irem's. Mahjong Kazoku comes across like one of those movies you find at the back end of the streaming site, with a title that's just similar enough to a popular film to try to trick people into watching it. And just like those movies, Mahjong Kazoku is not nearly as good as what it's imitating. For what it's worth, there was also an arcade game that went by the title Mahjong Kazoku that was released at roughly the same time. Well, the arcade game is absurdly rare, and it was released by a US company, so I think there's no connection between those two. The problems with Mahjong Kazoku start showing up right from the box, which depicts a 4-player game of Mahjong, with a human playing against what must be the Mahjong robot family, and then when you're actually playing, it's a 2-player mode. The 2-player variant of Riichi Mahjong was often used for video games in the 80s, because it was easier to display the tiles. The interface as you're playing is a little bit different from most Mahjong games. While the A button will draw the next tile from the stack, you have to hit up and down to cycle through the various commands. If you want to draw a discarded tile to make a set of 3 or to make a run, you have to pick that option from the list of commands, then press B. Then it will ask you to confirm that you want to do that by pressing B again. And when a match is over, you have to press Start to advance to the scoring. Mahjong Kazoku just winds up feeling kind of awkward to play. There are 4 game modes here. The first one is the standard Mahjong play. Second is an odd variant where the game intentionally deals really good hands to both you and the computer player, so it's a chance to get some really high scores. At least assuming that the computer player doesn't go out on turn 2 hitting you with 48,000 points. Next is a tutorial mode where you'll get advice from the computer on how you should play. The advice is not very good and often doesn't fit the situation that you're in. Finally, there's a variant where the game doesn't arrange your hand for you, which makes it a bit hard to read what you have. There aren't a whole lot of other options here. Often these games have a lot of rule variants, but you don't find that here. The only one that I encountered was making your opponent play with an open hand with all their tiles revealed, when you declared that you were 1 tile away from going out. Now I know to people who will never touch any of these Mahjong games, that any one of them looks pretty much like any other. However, I can tell you, even as somebody who's terrible at Mahjong, that Mahjong Kazoku is pretty bad. It just feels like a chore to play. A good Mahjong game goes fast. It pulls you through the game as quickly as possible, smoothing things over to let you play as many hands as possible. And you don't find that here. The only thing that Mahjong Kazoku has going for it is that name, which might have fooled some people into picking it up instead of the actually decent Namco one.